Hello, my friends. My name is Thomas Patrick Gaddy. I am 29 years old, and for the first time in my whole life, I've written a script for a YouTube video. I don't know who I am anymore. Okay, so Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Been talking about that one a lot lately, and the whole drama and dialogue that has gone on recently has done one thing for me that I've really appreciated and enjoyed. That's it's lit a fire under my ass to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to watching me get really close to a screen so I can read a script. I'm super blind. So over the course of the past few videos recently, it's not been a big secret that I have some problems with the way the adventure paths in 2nd edition are written. And much like a lot of us in the industry, that has caused me to feel a little bit of burnout in regards to 2e. Again, I'm very happy we've been talking about this system again, because it's given me the motivation to not just I'm burned out, I'm not doing this, and more, I'm burnt out. Why am I burnt out? Let's explore that. Let's look inside a little bit, and what can we do to change these things to make them better for players, so you're not just showing up and feeding characters that you love into the meat grinder that some of these adventures can be. So yeah, let's get an analysis. Let's talk about what my 2 coppers is on this situation, as far as what they're doing wrong, why it's wrong, and what they could do to be better. As always, guys, if you're liking what you see, and remember to like, subscribe, ding the bell. Okay, that was a kind of alright pop, sure. Stay caught up on all your Pathfinder 1 and 2 stuff. Remember that Patreon is the #1 way to support this channel. The #1 way to slide into my DMs and scream at me if you think I'm wrong. Or if you'd like to play some Pathfinder 2nd Edition in a world where you're not just ground into dust. But that's neither here nor there. Let's hit it. Okay, so looking inside myself during the entire illusion of choice dialogue that happened, I think the thing that hit me the hardest was the discussion of how it was wrong to point the finger at the designers of the game. I think the exact quote from a video I won't reference. If you've seen it, you've seen it. I don't care to continue a flame war. I care only to get things off my own chest and to start a dialogue, share my opinions with y'all. Was that, are these people not professional game designers? And yes, they are. They certainly are. But looking in on myself, thinking about that and thinking about what a professional game designer is, I think by society's standards, I'm 17 steps away, but at the end of the day, I run 6 campaigns in a week. That's Attack of the Swarm, Fall of Plaguestone into the Slithering, into some homebrew stuff starting in 2 weeks, a homebrew adventure, Rise of the Rune Lords, Iron Fang Invasion, as well as Fly Free or Die. Sidebar, Fly Free or Die is really good. Seriously, Starfinder is starting to grow on me. Y'all are probably going to see some Starfinder videos before too long. And if you're into Starfinder / if you want to try out Starfinder, get your hands on that damn book. It's great. That's 6 games, right? That constitutes 18 hours per week where I, in exchange for payment, am at a table running Dungeons & Dragons. I spend about 7 hours in a week across 2 games as a player with my friends, some of which are very new to D&D, some of which are very new to GMing a high-level play. And I'm not going to just not help my friends with the insights that I have when asked. That's literally what friends do, right? On top of that, I spend about 3 hours a week as a player on a podcast that we're trying, me and my friends, to go pro on. And on the week that we don't record, I am spending a lot of time editing what makes good content, looking internally at the Iron Gods adventure path, as well as my friend's own dumb jokes. In total, that's 28 hours in a week with a D20 in hand, and that's before prep time, that's before brewing time, that's before making characters for min-maxing for fun and profit, that's before taking the APs and molding them in such a way that they are good for my players, built around my players, built to challenge my players without just destroying them outright, and then add in editing videos, lore diving, so on and so forth. D&D's a full-time job for me. So seems to be, by definition, I am, in fact, a professional game designer. You give me money, I make game, I run game for you. I might not be employed by someone like Paizo, or I don't freelance for anyone. There's no corporation over my head. It's the line goes people who like my stuff straight to me. But really, having a corporation over my head sounds kind of nice because then I have that safety net. By running the 2E adventures, I have internalized this feeling of, oh no, I've killed more people's players. Will that cause me to lose a client? Will that sour a relationship with a client? Worse of all, will that mean someone who's coming to me for that extra thing for fun is going to not have fun and not be able to put real life down for a few hours? Which is why the over-the-top severity of the adventure paths has been so damn hard to process. It's even worse because the ones that I've GM'd in Pathfinder 2nd Edition are about this close. You can't see my fingers. I'm holding up my fingers. Pretend you can see them. To being really, really great stories. The big conflict with the evil dragon god, whose final battle will take place on Galarian versus his dad. That's been something that's been exciting to me for about 5 years. A game where you're in the circus is a theme and setting that I never thought I'd want to explore, but then when you get down to it is very unique and thus very cool. But the errors and oversight just cause these things to fail. First things first, now, what I will say is another piece that I've had to process with this is, had I understood 2nd edition's math a little better or had a little more insight into this, I would have been able to change them to be great for my players. And truly, if I could go back in time, I would do so. Make encounters easier, rewrite tactics that are terrifying, tell my players, hey, you're making a circus performer, but things are going to go south very, very fast. Make sure your character has in-character reasons to have great combat tactics, and also the general desire to, like, fight things. So I suppose if you're one of my patrons from Extinction Curse, or a former patron from Extinction Curse, I apologize. I did you dirty. But of course, I can't say all that without citing receipts, and so I will do so. First things first, one of the big problems I think the 2nd edition adventures have is the combats are very hard, but there's no pacing. You start out at 10, but don't have like warm-up fights, a chance to meet your characters, a chance to roleplay with the other characters. Like, if we were the MCU, which I think is a great analogy for TTRPG parties at large, we start without any of the solo movies, any of that first Avengers movie where we all come together to fight the big evil, just at the Battle of Wakanda. Just in you go, everything's really bad, good luck, have fun, hope you don't get snapped. Again, there's just no time to invest in your party, in your character, to learn who your character is. Just, hey, you're big heroes, please save us. But the problem with that is those big heroes are level 1 PCs with stats and hit points to reflect that. That gets even worse in adventures where you are expected to learn and try out side mechanics like performing in a circus. Check this out. I guess I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to spoil the crap out of Extinction Curse Book 1 and Age of Ashes Book 1. Brace for impact. This is how Extinction Curse begins. The Circus of Wayward Wonders performs in an enormous tent capable of holding hundreds of people. And that's a good thing, as it seems the population of Aberton has turned out for the show. Many of the town's most prominent citizens, including the mayor, are among the throng jostling for seats, peering at 3 rings that fill the center of the tent and waiting excitedly for the show to begin. As the lights go down and the audience settles onto their seats, the circus performers take their places backstage, hey, that's you, awaiting their cues. Suddenly, several of the performers closest to the curtain that separates the 3 rings from the rest of the tent leave their assignments, gathering in a small crowd to exchange frightened whispers and hushed gasps. Amid the group, his body contorted, as if caught forever in the throes of terrible pain, is the corpse of ringmaster Myron Thunderstendel. Everyone in the circus knew Myron for his amazing, powerful voice that could bring instant silence to the largest crowd, and he knew everything there is to know about putting on a successful performance. Now he's dead, but the crowd is still out there, and they're expecting a show. 3, 2, 1, go. That's how the adventure begins. This is almost worse than your, standard 40k games. Hi, welcome, Marine. The Tyranids have just entered the system. Have fun! Not only do you not have any chance to play with the circus mechanics, learn what's going on here, or, adjust to any kind of campaign at all, you're just immediately in hot water. Now, fortunately, I was able to read far enough ahead. I was able to give my players a little bit of wiggle room and time to do other things, like set up and get to know each other before the assassination took place. But as someone who designs and runs games for a living, I think it's pretty easy to look at this and tell that's not great game design. That's horrifying, especially when we're all rolling up to, hey, it's the circus. Hello, we're gonna go to the big show. Nope, everything's gone to shit. Now, assuming you have any idea how the circus mechanics works, you must perform them for the probably very first time under a lot of pressure and then go chase after a murderer who has had setup time and has lots of very terrifying and powerful tools in their toolbox. The area around the big top is trapped, poisonous snakes, rats running around, but that's not the worst one. Let me introduce you to Bardolph the Bear. Let me show you on this here map, Area A3. God, I wish Area A3 was the only offender. Bardolph is the circus's bear and has been something of a beloved mascot ever since his previous owner and caretaker was robbed and killed. Easy enough, right? Bardolph has been injured recently and has been resting after suffering a foot injury, and he's in his wagon when an evil druid shows up, charms the bear, and convinces the bear that the great Fortunato's killer, the killer of his former master from a long time ago, is finally coming after him. The bear will then attack the next creature that opens the door to the bear's wagon, even if it's someone he knows. Now, granted, this only happens for 2 rounds, and then the charm ends, unless the hero is carrying the cape from the ringmaster's tent and never comes to his senses until that hero is knocked out or killed. More receipts, here we go. Here's a grizzly bear's stats. Creature level 3, going at a level 1 party who, again, has not signed up for the uber scary encounter. They've signed up for the circus. Plus 11 jaws means on the roll of a 10, they've rolled a 21, which means this thing has a really, really high chance to hit or critically hit. This is part of the reason I think in a lot of games that plus 10 equals crit is not done in the best faith, or if it is, we should just tone our encounters down a little bit. It gets worse. I realize this is a statistical improbability, but my party's druid caught this to the face, enough to invoke the massive damage rules and kill her outright. No remorse, no mercy, just oops, you died. Of course, this is why Tommy hands out hero points, because I think they're just so necessary to like stop bad RNG, or if that happens. But even if it didn't, it's an average of 13 damage from the bite attack, which is a lot of damage. A lot of damage that, sure, you only have to deal with for a couple rounds, but those 2 rounds are going to really hurt even worse if now this thing suddenly has a target that it's going to zone in on to the exclusion of everyone else. Remember when we thought we were just gonna roll up jugglers and tightrope walkers and stuff? Joke's on you, haha. Except it's not funny. And on top of that, as you go tracking the killer, let's assume you don't even aggro the bear. There's a pair of water mephit that are hanging out where the druid had camped. One of them hiding in a stream, one of them digging around in a bag. They are startled to see anyone other than Nemia, that druid in question. Both attack intruders to drive them away. They won't chase you, they'll run away if you hurt them real bad, or in the case of my party, since at this point our anxieties are at like a 14 and we're shooting everything that moves to try to protect ourselves, we huck a shield at the bag and then the encounter starts. Which is fine until you realize that water mephits can cast Acid Arrow, throwing 3d8 acid damage plus 1d6 persistent acid damage at the party, which again, at level 1 adventurers is just not even fair. It's just rude. That stings really hard. And as it seems to be a theme in the 2nd edition adventures, the mephits are very often attached to something that gives them fast healing, in this case, the stream. So not only are they throwing down a bunch of damage, they're able to heal themselves. This is a game that seems to very, very much want you to play characters who form an optimized MMO-style party. Without the healer, this damage adds up. At least in the case of the 6 PCs I had, no one had rolled up anything that was very healy. because they all wanted to do different things than that, to do circus things. And now suddenly my druid is on her back foot trying to like spam heals and things, and doesn't even get a chance to throw her riding drake or dinosaur at the encounters, or when she does, she's burnt her action economy, better used to keep people standing or keep her shield up. But wait, there's more. Let's say you survive this. Let's say you are able to hunt down Nemia, who is easy enough to find in the circus, until your party makes logical steps to like, hey, go find this person, which would then change, logically speaking, someone who is sentient and has a self-preservation instincts tactics around a bit. Next thing you get to do is you get to head on into Aberton, what seems like a quiet, simple, and safe small town. Actually really isn't. Not only does a rival circus try to kick your ass in the streets, we didn't get to that part. The Golden Laws Church, a church of Abadar, has a demon problem. Just hours ago, as you get to this part of the adventure, several demons from the Hermitage of Blessed Lightning crept into Aberton to defile the church. If the heroes don't investigate the church on their own, eventually someone in town will be like, hey, there's demons at the church, this sucks. But in my case, you know, a town feels usually pretty darn safe and not dungeon-y in such a way that, yeah, sure, we'll talk to the prisoner, we'll take care of the children who are freaking out. One member of my party, will go to town to sell some stuff, see what's up, make some friends, stop at the Church of Abadar, and suddenly an Abercondilu and a Quasit are fighting one person. I won't go into the math on that one too hard, but I will say that Abercondilu was strong enough to kill my party's barbarian, rogue, druid, her riding drake, who she just got. We went from, hey, your riding drake's come of age, Godzilla is ready to run into combat with you, and this big wholesome scene of here comes our four-legged friend giving us a big noozle to oops, dead on the ground, and Champion of Caden. At this point, the wizard had jumped ship and the bard hadn't made it that day because the bard wasn't feeling how hard this was either. But yeah, no, all wrecked to what I want to say was bad RNG on their part, but also just you don't get any signals that you're going into a place that things are going to be hard. They just are. What seems safe and innocuous on the surface is absolutely not, which I would call poor game design. To change all of this, what I would do is either do what I'm going to start doing in Extinction Curse Beyond, and if we're running the published stuff, you start at level 2, have a little more hit dice and things, or just flat cut the assassination attempt until at least a performance has happened. Do a 2-day show kind of thing. Let the party meet each other, let the party meet NPCs in the circus, let the party familiarize themselves with the setting, with the place, with things that might be going on in the world around them, which that one I did, again, make a much better alteration to, and we're about to talk about that. Let the first performance go off for better or worse, and then next one at the top of the second, that's when this happens. At the very least, they've got an attachment with NPCs, and it's not suddenly just, oops, actually we're not circusing, we're violencing. And by that same notion, after you catch your assassin and do with her as you will, let the party all go to Aberton, or whoever goes to Aberton first once, do it without incident or anything bad happening, as opposed to just immediately, oh, by the way, the town's gone to pot. Because without that sensation of, hey, this is good, this is easy, we are developing the world, we're meeting people, and constantly just putting the pressure on your party, when the pressure does come down, it feels much less like strife you must deal with, and much more like a painful and unfun pressure cooker. Next, what I think might be worse here is it seems to me to further fuel the notion that the party are all big damn heroes. Everyone in the world who isn't the party seems to be expected to be unintelligent. For example, let me point you to this area here on that same map. Area A7 indeed cockatrice rocks. The circus set up its horse corral in one of the practice rings near a large heap of scattered boulders. Unknown to the circus members, however, the boulders are the home of a surly and lazy cockatrice. A hero who succeeds at a DC 15 perception check, only a hero, not an NPC, while looking at the boulders, notices that one of them looks startlingly like a crumbled statue of a cow. This is the cockatrice's most recent victim. The cockatrice attacks any creatures that enter the area of the stones, which is horrible because now we are expected to believe that a circus, where folks are trained in nature, I assume, if they're setting up horse corrals, and also have eyes in their head, would maybe notice that they've set up in a monster's hunting ground. I might feel a little different if the cockatrice had like the uncommon or rare tag, but it does not. We are led to believe, thus, that a cockatrice is a common creature in the world. If your livelihood is bent on, I travel around, I go from place to place, I perform for people, I don't generally live within the bounds of settlements or society, I think it's a pretty easy jump to assume that, well, folks would be looking out for things just like this. Now, the way I'd run this was the cockatrice rocks were not right on top of them. The cockatrice rocks were out in the forest and they'd gone like wandering around and they found them and it was an optional encounter, which they ended up subduing the cockatrice and bringing it back to the circus to eventually have like an extra circus act or thing to train. But as you run this, imagine, if you will, you're looking around trying to find a murderer, stumble upon these rocks. Hey, maybe they're hiding in the rocks. Oh no, something that can calcify you. On top of everything else. Put that shit away from the circus. People should be smart enough to not set up next to that. I suppose we'll also revisit here, oh Age of Ashes, the world where humanoids are not smart enough to start a bucket brigade on their own. Check this out. Now, I ran this one on the channel, and full disclosure, I added a second fire method to the encounter. I had 6 PCs. That increases the overall challenge of things. But it's the very first event, the very first thing we get down to in Age of Ashes. A town calls heroes to the town to undertake quests, basically. And then someone summons a fire method to try to burn the town hall down with a bunch of people in it. Pretty good strategy on the part of the bad guys. Fire is dangerous. Smoke inhalation will kill you. The party is expected to subdue the method, get folks to safety, and put out fires that spread really, really rapidly. But hey, fortunately, Fountain Circle, located outside Town Hall, has several working water pumps, who the NPCs who are trapped could realistically start a bucket brigade to go and help out with. Unfortunately, in the tactics baked into the adventure, spectators avoid the flames but don't exit the room on their own. They need to be rescued by PCs. These people are not smart enough to go to an open door to escape a fire on their own. The town councilors are also here. They spend the encounter helping spectators escape the chamber as like pseudo PC actions, but that still leaves 20 people that they just cannot help, and 20 NPCs that a party must keep from burning to death. They can be extracted to retrieve buckets, they can do other things like that, but they don't do that on their own. Not only is everyone taking damage from smoke inhalation, party included. Eventually 5 turns in, any spectator in the room falls unconscious from burns and smoke, and on turn 7 they just flat die. Now, I know I've been over this on the channel already, I know I'm double speaking, but this is just so badly written. I feel like I need to speak my truth about it once again. I certainly understand framing your adventures in such a way that the players get to do important, brave, heroic things. I think that's very important in the RPG universe at large, and part of the reason we're coming to TTRPGs in the first place is to feel cool, to feel big, to be strong, and do things that we on planet Earth just can't do. But my experiences so far make me question how settlements on Galarian in 2nd edition without NPCs with class levels have it burned to the ground, been raised by monsters, or something in between, just because it seems the gap between PC and NPC brainpower is as wide as the Arch of Eridan. You're now suddenly having to do all of the physical and emotional labor of people who should know how to do this stuff on their own. And it's same for the bad guys. It seems to me that encounters are meant to be played in such a way that intelligent creatures don't have any sense of self-preservation or know how to ask for help. Creature design in Pathfinder 2nd seems to trend more towards a fight versus a single big monster, rather than a lot of them or a lot of little ones. The overall actions in a turn are thus reduced, and so encounters can be net faster, which looks really great. But once a creature with a positive int score calls for help, goes and finds its friends, tries to escape, and then reappears in a later encounter, the power drastically tips towards the enemies, which compounds the adventure path death toll. How would I fix this? Well, for one, throw out the tactics of any allied NPC and play them as if they were you. Your house is on fire. What do? Do you stand around and panic and trip over things and die? No. I mean, if you're asking me, I'm going to go grab Achilles and we're going to GTFO the house and wait for the fire department to get there and do something. But in a world where there's not a fire department and there's a river like right outside where I am, I might maybe try to put out the fire on my own. As far as enemies go, apply the weak template if they're going to be played with any level of intelligence until a point where your party just starts rolling over them. If they've built the SWAT team in the circus, then hey, great, it probably works out. My assumption is a lot of people didn't coming in. I'm going to take all of these forward on top of my own homebrew rules for 2nd edition. That is to say, using 5e short rest, starting everyone at level 2, we're playing dual class. Animal companions will not need to be commanded and get 3 actions. Rip my druid, who's spending way too much time having to do tier 1 things just so her party didn't die. And, well, spoilers, they did. And perhaps after that, I will have more insight into the situation. But until then, that's all I have to say about this one. What do y'all think? What has your experience with these adventures been like? GMs, I am literally calling out to you. How have you run these? How much have you had to change to make these fun and exciting? Are your players enjoying these adventures the way they are written? Another thing I come to realize in the whole Taking 20 debacle, there was a bit about how there's a bunch of small and vocal communities in the Pathfinder world, which both stings, but is objectively true with my subscriber count at like 5,000. I realize I have created a bit of an echo chamber. And if I'm crazy, please, God, just tell me. But till then, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, like and subscribe for more stuff, and we will see you next time.